Welcome to this Town of Newmarket Council meeting on Monday, May 15th, 2017. All members of council are present with the exception of Councillor Twinney. Mayor Van Bynen is presiding.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. There are no public notices required today. We do have some additions and corrections to the agenda. Mr. Shelton, if you could outline them for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have three additions to the agenda. The three of them relate to item 9, which deals with the Development and Infrastructure Services Report Planning and Building Services 2017-19 regarding a tertiary plan study and interim control bylaw for Old Main Street. So we have two deputation requests, and the third item is a request by a member of council to convene into a closed session for the purposes of receiving legal advice subject to solicitor-client privilege as per section 2392F of the Municipal Act, and that's related to both items 9 and the proposed bylaw, which is item 13.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adopt those additions? And we do, thank you, Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Broom, and we require 2/3 majority. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Being none, then we'll move forward to the presentations. Our first presentation is celebration. And what I would like to do for the benefit of our viewing audience is to read this proclamation on behalf of this council. It was signed individually by all members of council. It says that whereas the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce, originally known as the Newmarket Board of Trade, was founded in 1857, and whereas one of the first projects of the Newmarket Board of Trade was to lobby the federal government to have Newmarket declared a port of entry, and whereas the Newmarket Board of Trade became the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce in 1911, and whereas the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce is an independent, nonpartisan voice of Newmarket business, and whereas 2017 marks the 160th anniversary of the founding of the Newmarket Chamber, now therefore be it proclaimed that 2017 be recognized as the year of the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce in the town of Newmarket, in honor and in recognition of the Chamber's unwavering support, advocacy, and voice to our community and its nearly 900 community business members. And that is signed by each and every member of this council. And if members of council would come forward with me, we'll make that presentation to the President and CEO. Deborah? We don't do all these resolutions like this because we'd have a large book. With that, on this occasion, here we go. Let's have a photo of this. Bring members of council together. Okay. Great. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for everything you do. Next item is a power. Could I have a motion to? We already passed the resolution.
To proclaim it?
All right. Could I have a motion to make this proclamation, please? Councillor Vague, Councillor Kerwin. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Next item is a PowerPoint presentation. We have Andrea Whitty, Chris Scott, and Sophia Batar the community liaison officers for the York Region Rapid Transit Organization to provide us with an update.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for having us here this evening. We're pleased to bring you an update on our Yonge Street and Davis Drive projects. First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Andrea Whitty. I'm the Yonge Street Project Manager with York Region Rapid Transit. And to my right is Chris Scott, who'll be presenting with me this evening. He's also a project manager, and you may know him from our Davis Drive project. Also coming up today will be Sophia Batar, who will give community relations updates about our activities in Newmarket. And we do have a few of my colleagues attending in the audience, so I will introduce them. Paul May, our Chief Engineer, Linda Filippi, our Manager of Community Relations, and Russell Baker from our Communications Department. So in our updates today, you'll see we're going to cover our two rapid transit projects, Davis Drive and Yonge Street, and a number of our communications initiatives. And just as a bit of a refresh for everybody, our Davis Drive project is actually represented on this slide by the blue line going east-west. It's our in-service transit that's running from the Newmarket bus terminal out to the 404 at Park and Ride. And the Yonge Street project is represented by the pink line. So Yonge Street from Savage and Sawmill up to Davis Drive is the one under construction. And there are also two more components to Yonge Street down to Richmond Hill that are shown in the circle. And that is from Highway 7 up to Major Mackenzie. And then just north of the Heritage area, there is a segment from Levendale to 19th Avenue. I'm going to turn it over to Chris to give you some updates on Davis Drive.
Thank you, Andrea. We have a brief update for you today on the Davis Drive project. As you guys are aware, we began operating VivaNext service along the Davis Drive corridor in 2015. We did have some work that needed to be carried over into 2016. We did complete most of that work last year, and now we're into the warranty period itself. That said, we do have a little bit of work, some minor corridor repairs that need to happen in 2017. Specifically, some sidewalk bays need to be replaced, so it's quite minor. In addition to that, we do have the concrete repairs that are required at the Keith Bridge, and our contractor has mobilized to site and begun removing the spalling concrete in some specific locations. And we do expect that the concrete pour will happen later next week, and all of those repairs will be done by the end of May. Next slide. With respect to an update on the Union Hotel, we continue to work with the Town of Newmarket planning staff, the local heritage committee, to resolve and address the issues that have been raised, as well as the site plan conditions themselves. As can happen when working on old buildings such as the Union Hotel, you do encounter some unforeseen concerns or issues, and we have encountered a couple of those specifically with respect to the structure itself, as well as the brick veneer has begun cracking. So we are undertaking some technical assessments to determine what is the extent of the issue itself, and then take corrective action. We do expect that those technical assessments will be done over the next 6 months, and then we'll begin working on completing the site plan works itself and moving forward with the project. At this point, I'll pass the presentation back over to Andrea for the Yonge Street update.
So I'm pleased to update that utility relocations that started on Yonge Street in 2015 are actually nearing completion. As you might have seen along the corridor, there's been a lot of activity the last little while, and Newmarket Hydro is the last utility in the corridor completing their work. They're actually working in the Gladman and Millard area doing some hydro pole installation, and once they complete this segment of work that's happening this week, there'll be one more piece of work where they're installing about half a dozen poles, and then they will be completed. That time frame, as noted there, is July. And what that does is that actually clears the corridor of all the major utility conflicts so that we can begin our road widening work along the corridor. And that's what this map here represents in our construction updates. Last week we completed our traffic staging, our traffic shift from Sawmill to Eagle. You'll see on the west side of the road, our contractor now has a work area in order to start the widening activities, which they did commence last week. And we are still able to maintain 2 lanes of traffic in either direction. So if you look at the map, the blue work area is going from Sawmill up to Eagle on that west-hand side. And as Newmarket Hydro completes their work from Eagle to Davis and is out of the corridor, our contractor will start to stage that area and move north. So we'll actually have road widening activities in 2017 throughout that whole segment on the west side. So it'll make for a very busy year, but a lot of positive news to be completing those works. In terms of traffic management and pedestrian safety, these are very important to us. As you would have seen on our other projects, we have a lot of signage that helps guide the pedestrians throughout the corridor. The one in the top right-hand corner helps them move up and down Yonge Street, access local businesses, as well as our bus stops along the corridor. And our variable message signs, the electronic sign in the bottom right is one that we update frequently with updates to identify what work is taking place and any anticipated impacts. We've also recently installed local traffic only signs that have been posted on all the side streets off Yonge where major work is taking place. And we continue to coordinate work with other projects in the area. One of the things also that our community liaison team does continue to do is educate the community about safety and how to move around the community, and Sophia is actually out doing some of those presentations now to some local schools. One thing that we've been before you updating is on our schedule on Yonge Street, and we did share in our last update that our schedule is under pressure. As a result, the Rapid Way we anticipate will be completed in segments, and by that I mean we have a Newmarket segment and a Richmond Hill segment. At this point, Newmarket is farther advanced than the other segment, and we anticipate that we'd be completed in 2019, and the Richmond Hill segments would follow in 2020. So we'll continue to talk to our contractor about ways to mitigate the schedule and continue looking at that and bringing forward updates as things progress. Now I'll turn it over to Sophia, who can give you some of our communications updates.
So for us to manage impact, some of the things we do is we really try to drive subscriber numbers. So as you can see on the screen there, as of now, as of March 2017, we have 1,700 plus subscribers. We mailed out 9,500 plus project newsletters to residents within a 2-block radius of the work area. We hand-delivered approximately 1,500 notice drops to residents within a 150-meter radius east and west of Yonge Street within our construction limits, which is Sawmill Valley Drive to Davis Drive. This notice, which you see on the screen, provides an overview of upcoming construction for the 2017 year and encourages residents to sign up for construction updates. Then we have business open and entrance open signs and signs for pedestrians that are out on the corridor. As Andrea mentioned, we have the VMS signs, the variable messaging signs, which are current and reflect the work that is currently happening on the corridor. And we provide advance notice of the work and work closely with businesses and property owners to manage the impacts. This year, we will be launching our spring campaign in June this year. And our spring campaign, which is the Shop Yonge campaign, includes newspaper and digital ads, YRT bus advertising, community engagement, which includes, we'll be out in the community this year. We'll be at most of the farmers markets in the summer and any other community events that are out there. Website and social media posts, business profiles, social media assistance, and working collaboratively with our partners at the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce to help support businesses during construction. We offer businesses a complimentary membership. Every now and then we'll send out emails to the businesses reminding them of the benefits, some of the benefits that the Chamber offers. Most recently, we emailed businesses encouraging them to take advantage of the Newmarket Chamber's no-cost education seminars. Backed by popular demand and special request, we are launching the My Yonge Street Selfie Contest in August. This will be launched on August 14th and will run until September 3rd, the Sunday of Labor Day long weekend. So basically, shoppers will take a selfie with their purchase, then tweet it, share the photo on Instagram or email it with the hashtag MyYongeStreet. This encourages residents to shop on Yonge Street in Newmarket. Participants are then entered into a weekly draw to have a chance to win 3 Yonge Street shopping sprees. And this, of course, was based on the success of the Davis Drive Selfie Contest. So we'll be mirroring that one. The next slide, Andrew, thank you. As you can see, That's me on the screen there. So we've got a lot of ways to communicate. One of those ways is through the community liaison. That's my role. So I'm the one point of contact for the project. Besides myself, that's always communicating with the public and businesses on the corridor. We provide attractive collaterals like brochures, newsletters, and FAQs to the public. We provide construction notices. Sometimes they're emailed, sometimes they're hand-delivered. Regular social media updates on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Viva Next's website is constantly updated with a lot of information and resources for people to have information. We have blogs, project maps, images, and much more. All of this are critical to our success in supporting the community and keeping everyone informed. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open up
Those are
to
the-
questions.
Great. I have a number of people in the queue here. I'll start with Regional Councillor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. Your regular visits here are very helpful, and it helps keep us informed and the public informed, and the communications in general are excellent, and there's a lot of outreach and a lot of information that's going out to the public, and it's much appreciated, and Sophia does a great job in keeping in touch with everybody and going to see the seniors' buildings and much more, so it's been excellent. And there's no question that this is going more smoothly than Davis Drive. Davis Drive was tough, but it's two things, I think. One is that this is clearly not as constrained. It's not as difficult a work environment. But the other one is, I think, the region was very open to trying to learn from the process, and I think there's been some real improvements made, and so I commend everybody on that as well. There is a but. I have to say, and you don't need to respond, it's a comment to be taken back or for others listening, but I'm very concerned and I'm very frustrated, and I've mentioned it before in one-on-one meetings as well, so I think it's important I say it here with the progress on the Union Hotel and the two buildings there. It's been a long time, and it doesn't look great, and we've done a lot of work on that corridor, and it's really time to get that building back into production and being a productive building, a site that animates the street, that shows what this project can be and can do. And I know there's complications, but I think we need to prioritize it more if we have been prioritizing it. And I think it's very important. And so I really, really hope to see a result this calendar year and not carried over into next year looking the way it does. I mean, it's time to deal with it, whatever has to be done and whatever the answers are. And I don't mean in terms of tearing it down, in case that's what somebody means, I think. But whatever decisions have to be made, let's make them, and let's get this building productive, and let's get somebody moved in there and offering a service to the community and making the street look great. And so it's very frustrating. And so I hope we can really start to move that forward. But otherwise, I just want to say thank you for the work. I know it's a tough, these projects are very large and they're impactful. And when I say it's going better than Davis Drive, I'm not saying it's easy. I know there's still businesses being impacted, but it's going, I think, quite well. And I think, again, the communication's been excellent. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hempel.
Thank you. And as the heritage rep for the town of Newmarket, Viva has been working with us and recently gave us a presentation on the Union Hotel. And the Union Hotel does have some challenges structurally, and there have been brought forward some different ideas, and the town will be, or the region will be, moving forward with restoring that building and getting it operating again soon. So that's some good news. I drive along the section of Yonge often, and a minimum of a couple times a day, and traffic runs smoothly, and it's working well. And I just wanted to say thank you as well, and thank you for the contest that's taking place and trying to encourage business along Yonge Street. I know those businesses maybe have some challenges, but again, I find the traffic is running smoothly, and it's easy to get in and out of those plazas. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quapis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. We've been working many years together since, I guess, Davis Drive, and I got to commend you that you've been working with the community very well, and I think we've taken a lot of learnings from Davis Drive onto Yonge Street, so I have not been as inundated by phone calls I have been in the past, so things are working. I do have a couple of questions. Obviously, I do want to echo the regional councillor and Councillor Hempel regarding the Union Hotel. Is there any possibility or chance of actually having it more sightly, or at least the barriers removed by next year, or any timing available to us?
Andrea?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the comment that Chris did make, I think we're anticipating a 6-month window while we organize, the next steps and the plans and get our own approvals in order. So we can certainly bring back a timeline as to what that would look like. And I've noted your comments. The idea would be we'd be focusing on this year to, be trying to achieve that work plan or move it forward.
Okay, I look forward to the timeline. The other question is a little bit more specific, is regarding the signs where it says local traffic only. On page 7, you mentioned that you have few signs posted. Can you tell me exactly what streets they're posted on?
Andrea, go ahead.
I can list them here. So Sawmill Valley and Savage, Mulock, Cedarland, William Rowe, Eagle Street, Gladman, and Millard.
If there is,
Succedo.
if there's opportunities to have other streets added onto that list, would that be welcome?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, of course, we can ask them.
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bizans?
Yes, thank you, and thanks very much for the update and presentation. And I just want to echo the thanks, and particularly to commend Sophia. She is just so responsive and receptive. Anytime that I've had an issue or a question, she's quick on it and looks for a solution, particularly around pedestrian access and everything else, but also makes herself so available for community outreach, and I really appreciate that. So I wanted to commend you for all of that. My questions relate to the businesses, because as with some of the other councillors and comments, we don't seem to have as much response to us directly from the businesses. I know that there are obviously some concerns, but have you found that there's been uptake, like good uptake to the offer of the chamber membership for the year? I mean, are they making themselves or making that available to themselves and finding that it's something that's helped them get through this transitionary period?
Sophie?
We've had quite a number of businesses out of the total of about 300 plus businesses that we've identified on the corridor that have taken advantage of the chamber membership. I just don't have the numbers from the top of my head. And I do know that when we talk to them about it, they're very appreciative of the offer and the offers that the chamber, the programs that the chamber offers them as well. So they get excited about it. We don't have a follow-up process after that. So once they sign up for the membership, they're then with the chamber.
Okay, and of course, the chamber's a fantastic organization, I say that.
Yeah.
But I think, that kind of an initiative and offering is certainly something that adds value, but I think it also recognizes that it gives those businesses an opportunity to connect with others and to connect with their colleagues on the street, to be able to look at ways in which they can perhaps work with you and together to mitigate any disruption to their businesses. But as I said, I haven't heard very much other than some anecdotal pieces. But I think for the most part, it seems that the access to the plazas and so forth has been kept fairly open. So a little bit less disruption on that side from my observation. So again, thank you very much, and in particular, I appreciate, Sophia, all of your assistance and support. But it's good to hear that we're offering businesses that little bit of value add. I'm looking forward to the selfie project and getting out on the street myself, as I did on Davis Drive for that, and hopefully we'll just generally promote those businesses that are working, and business people who are working so hard on Yonge Street as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I commend the project for keeping the two buildings on that corner of the Union Hotel, and I know you've had a difficult time with it, and as Regional Councillor Deputy Mayor Taylor says, the sooner you can finish it and make it productive, we all want that. So please keep up the good work on those. You maintain them. That was a great thing. I can remember when Wes Plater came here and he asked you to protect them and restore them, and you did. And now we've got to make them useful. There was tremendous cost there. So I support what Regional Councillor Taylor was saying. The other question I have is really the Keith Bridge, the east side, the Tom Taylor Trail. A real sad day for me when I walked under there and all the lights underneath were smashed. An act of vandalism. I think there's only one or two lights that were absolutely left. Is there any better way that you can protect those lights or even put cameras in there as a security measure under that Tom Taylor east side that goes underneath the Keith Bridge?
Andrea?
I'm not as familiar with it myself, certainly, and I know vandalism is a difficult thing to control. I don't know if Christy can provide any other comment.
So that has been an ongoing issue with respect to the Keith Bridge itself.
Could you speak a little louder so that people
Maybe a
in the
little
back
closer
can
to
hear?
the mic, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So ever since we opened the Keith Bridge and the trails on both the west and the east side, vandalism has been of concern. The lights have been smashed out in the past, as well as ongoing graffiti issues that we continue to have. Seems every time we clean off the walls, somebody comes back and tags them. We have worked with the Town of Newmarket staff in the past, as well as the region, to discuss, what sort of options are available to try and curb that sort of behavior, such as putting a camera down underneath and working with York Region Police. I believe some of those options are still being considered at this point. However, none have been implemented as of yet. So we could take that back and have a secondary discussion with York Region Roads Maintenance, as well as Town of Newmarket, to see if there is any ability to move forward with such a program.
Yeah, it was, as I say, when I walked under there, it was really, really a sad day. I mean, someone systematically had taken almost like an iron bar and systematically smashed every light but one, I think, under the east portion, under the Keith Bridge. It was, so anything you can do to prevent that and mitigate it, no matter what we have to do, we've got to do that, because the costs are just enormous. And it's just rising every year, the cost of vandalism to the average citizen, the average taxpayer. The second one I'd like to ask about the Keith Bridge, as I watch you jackhammer it up again. What happened? Why the spalling and so forth that we have to go back? And I would hope that the contractor absorbs that cost, not the taxpayer again. So why did it go wrong?
Andrea?
So actually, I'll field that question as well.
Sure, go ahead.
So the spalling was as a result, or what they believed to be as a result of some of the conduits didn't have caps put on it. And so during the summer months, rain and water got into the conduits and it sat in there. And then during the winter months, obviously that water froze. And
It expands and contracts.
And then it expanded, and as a result of that, the conduit pushes out, pushes against the concrete, causes the cracking and delamination. And then water gets inside that delamination and then further cracks it. So we've asked our contractor to retain the services of a concrete expert to provide that sort of technical opinion. They've done the analysis, we just haven't gotten the full report yet.
So who's going to absorb the cost of that? Is it the contractor to come back to repair the Keith Bridge?
So the project itself will take care of those repairs, and it'll be deemed whether it's negligence on the contractor's part, then they'll absorb the cost. Otherwise, it'll be the project budget that will pay for it.
And because it affects us, because we have an art display coming, and we want to officially open the east portion of the Tom Taylor Trail, when do you absolutely will have the Keith Bridge finished so we can do our honoring and opening?
The town of Newmarket staff has made it, or made us aware of the plan to have the plaque ceremony, and we understand that it's going to happen in June. So we've been working over the past few months to ensure that we have all of those repairs done by the end of May, and we are on track to have those repairs done in time for your ceremony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Regional Councillor?
Thanks. Sorry to go back to the Union Hotel, but I'm just trying to recognize that I don't obviously understand the complexity of what's going on there, and I think the best way to do that is if perhaps staff at the region could send ourselves maybe a list of what are the technical assessments that are going to take place in the next 6 months. How many have taken place in the last year? How many of those are currently underway, or how many are not? And what's the nature of them, and perhaps timelines if possible. This one's a 1 week, this one's a 2 month. I mean, I'm just struggling because it's, to say that at this point we're going to do assessments and they're 6 months long. This has been a situation we've dealt with for a while, so maybe if I could help, if I could get an understanding of those various assessments. Thank you.
Thank you. It's rather fortuitous that we have both the Chamber of Commerce and Viva Next here. I think that partnership on Davis Drive in terms of engaging the businesses and putting together some of the marketing programs really worked out well. So the partnership between the Chamber and the Chamber's contribution to those projects, I certainly appreciate it. And in terms of responsiveness, I have to agree with my colleagues, is that Viva Next certainly does value customer service, and in a very professional way, particularly Sophia. Her reaction whenever there has been an issue, the response has been first class. And so as a team, you should take a great deal of pride in what you're accomplishing. You still have a big job ahead of you, but what you're doing, your commitment and your professionalism is certainly appreciated by our municipality. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I have a motion to receive the presentation, please? Councillor Quapis, Councillor Broom. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have 4 deputations today. The first deputation is Mr. John Dowson, and that's with respect to the Newmarket Theatre Task Force. We permit up to 5 minutes. Mr. Dowson?
Thank you. I've tried as best I could, but as much as I can, I wrote over it, and it goes down to about 5.5 minutes. Could it be possible to get an extra 2 minutes to make sure that I...
All right. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor
right,
Vague. All those in favor? Okay, 7
Thank you.
minutes it is.
I just want to mention there's 2 members of the Ideas Committee with me, Jackie Bailey and Rod Urquhart up there, and there's some more that didn't make it today, and then Rob Wilson, who's heading it up. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, regional councillors, staff, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again on the Newmarket Theatre. And in October 25th, 2011, I made a presentation to council on the financial stability of the Newmarket Theatre when the annual operating deficit was at that time $318,000, which includes, by the way, administration costs. And on April the 6th, 3 years later, in 2004, I gave another presentation on the sustainability of the Newmarket Theatre when the annual operating deficit had then ballooned to $794,000. And I asked council at that time to set up a task force to review the viability of operating the theatre, to submit recommendations to council before the old town hall opened in 2015. But it didn't open until September 2016. So as a member of the task force, I'm now giving you my triennial presentation on the sustainability and the feasibility of operating Newmarket Theatre and now the Old Town Hall. The task force was established October 2014, and in May 2015, Colin, Service Director of Parks and Rec, who headed it up, submitted a comprehensive report to town on the, to the council on the report, 13 recommendations. Council approved the report, and after that, an ideas committee was formed to focus on methods of implementing the recommendations and submitting progress reports to council. Some of the things that the task force recommended were hiring a new staff, booking entertainment that people wanted to see, improving online ticket sales, booking new shows, developing municipal theater network, and hiring someone to brand and market the theater. And so far, new excellent staff has been hired, and some positions have been reallocated. You probably know that. Excellent acts and productions have been booked. Drama students have been recruited as ushers at the theaters, and a marketing expert's been hired. A new online ticket program is now under construction, and scanned tickets are going to be soon available, they tell us. The Newmarket Theater will soon be renovated, the lobby, and new uniforms for the ushers are in order. And the Old Town Hall is operational with excellent acts and productions. And the task force's objective was to break even in the operating costs. What's happened? Well, the Newmarket Theater has got 416 seats, and the Old Town Hall 180. That's a total of 596. However, attendance at some of the first-rate productions at the Newmarket Theater are less than half full. Some shows have had to be canceled because of lack of ticket sales. The beautiful auditorium in the Old Town Hall entertains at best 30 to 50 patrons per show, and here too, productions have had to be canceled for ticket sales, lack of ticket sales. Both of the theaters are costing money. I'm constantly telling friends, and so are the people on the committee, about the top-notch entertainment they've never heard of. Few people who do attend the shows are constantly saying, why isn't the town marketing this? The entertainers are upset over a lack of audience, and I know what it's like to play to an empty house. A lack of an audience is not only embarrassment, it costs money. So the staff has done what you asked them to do, but you haven't given them the tools to finish the job. The theater does not have a dedicated website, no social media, no email patrons list, no online advertising, and no online promotions. We've been told over and again that governments work slowly, but it's been 3 years and the Ideas Committee is still waiting for the website. It's not only costing money, the public's missing out on the shows they'd like to see. The town's spending about $1 million a year to operate 2 excellent theaters with top-notch entertainment, and you can't find $1,200 a year to advertise it? It's the 21st century where people search the internet to find out what's on. It's like creating a top-line automobile with no transmission. You can't drive it, but it's got a lot of parking in it. The power of the internet can't be dismissed. For example, the Newmarket National 10-Minute Play Festival, which will be in July this year, created a website, and it attracted submissions from every province in Canada, United States, Europe, and Ireland, all from one modest website. Members of council who operate businesses wouldn't even think of not having a website for the business, and most councillors I know already have websites. And yet the town can't find $1,200 a year to promote excellent theater entertainment that the staff's recruited, but the town can spend $1 million a year to operate 2 theaters. It just doesn't make sense. There's an old proverb, so for the want of a nail. Office politics and petty jealousy shouldn't have any place in keeping the public from attending good theater productions and saving taxpayers' dollars. And for those of you who are sitting on council now, who worked in large corporations, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The staff, give the tools, the staff the tools to finish the job and you ask them to do, and they'll turn these 2 theaters into civic institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or clarification? Councillor Gillespie?
John, is it my understanding that you're saying that the website would fix the attendance problem?
Sure, it
And
would.
that's-
I'm running into people all the time trying to find it. There is something on your town website, but it's buried in there. And I'm not an expert on websites, but I do know that I got one. Our theater group's got one. I mean, you've got one. right? And that's what, when people want to go to the theater, they find out what's on. And when you pop up the Newmarket Theater, now you get Silver City. And then when I buy tickets at Richmond Hill, where I have to go, or Richmond, or Markham, and as soon as you buy a ticket, you get an offer thing saying, do you want to be on our mailing list? Yes. And I'm getting stuff from everybody I bought tickets for, but not from here. It's just, doesn't make sense. You asked them to do the job, they did it, and then they sit there and nobody goes. I don't know how many productions you've been to at there, but some of the stuff that's coming in now is great.
Thank you.
I get wound up about it because
Well, it's great to see that you have a passion for the theater, certainly a dramatic passion,
I just want to
might
see
say.
people going to see these things, you know?
Yep. Thank you. I know that there's been some discussion with our Director of Recreation and Culture, and I'm not sure that I agree with some of the numbers you put forward, but that's a good opportunity for us to ask staff to provide us with, to refer this presentation to staff, and ask staff to provide us with an updated report, and maybe we can clarify some of these numbers. I certainly appreciate the recommendations and your passion for making the theater successful, and I think that we could do it in a more collaborative way, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So I will entertain a motion then to receive the presentation and refer it to staff. And Mr. Shelton, if you could let us know what would be a reasonable time frame.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We can take this back to our operational leadership team and give you a date for that. I just wonder if council wants any initial comments at this point from the commissioner.
Okay, let's receive the deputation and refer that to staff. So do I have a mover for that? Oh, okay. Just this clarification with the deputy?
Yeah, just a question.
Councillor Hempel, go ahead.
And I do appreciate your passion. I know you've been involved in theater and been a big part of theater. You and Mrs. Bailey and her husband together have brought a lot of culture to our town.
I don't want to come back 2-3 years from now.
You know, I just wanted to make it very clear, and I appreciate what you're saying, and we do need a website, but I just took a moment now and I went on the town's website, newmarket.ca, just for the viewing audience, and I went on things to do, and when you push on things to do, there's a window that comes down, and there's a specific button to hit Newmarket Theater, and here it says, purchase tickets, upcoming events, volunteer opportunities, hours, contact us, Newmarket Theater and the Old Town Hall, quality entertainment close to home. Why travel all the way to the city when Newmarket Theater and the Old Town Hall presents world-class artists and high-quality entertainment right in your own backyard, and so on and so forth. So I just want to make that clear. Perhaps we can do a better job and have our own website, but I wanted to make it clear to the viewing audience that there is the opportunity, and we do have it on our website. And I do appreciate your passion, John. And I know you're working closely with these groups, and I'm hoping that these groups also try to promote their acts. And if you have that opportunity to ask them to put a segment of their production on YouTube or use Twitter or the many different outlets for social media, it's a benefit to our community. So thank you.
The Luminato and some of those other people, yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm not the only one. There was a task force, we had about 12 people on that. Right now, there's, I think, 6 on the Ideas Committee, so there are people out there just as excited about it as I am.
Thank you
very much.
Councillor Kerwin, question of clarification?
John, as always, I appreciate your passion for culture because I know that you know that I'm of the same mind. And with regard to the theaters, I'm so happy to hear that they're excellent theaters because I must confess that my wife and I were involved with both of them. And you're quite right. I think you were there on Sunday, were you not, for the Welsh Choir? Mm-hmm. We had a sold-out performance, 400. We sold beyond the 400 seats. It holds 400. We sold 400 seats. So it was packed, and we used the social media. So I'm sure our staff, John, will become aware of that. I was at the Opera Illuminati, and they had 2 performances, and unfortunately there were about 200 at each performance. But the marketing for that was the Opera Illuminati, they were in charge of marketing that show themselves, John. So you know, it's not the town's, because people come in, they rent it, and they're responsible for their own marketing. But John, I'm willing to work with you, as you know, on any project to get the attendance up. You and I go, and let's get more of our residents out to go, because once they do go and they see the type of theatre we have, there isn't a bad seat in the Newmarket Theatre. 400 seats, not one bad seat there. In the old town hall, it's just restored and renovated. And I will announce tonight the success of the piano fund. Eric has stepped forward to raise a Steinway piano for the old town hall, and it's there, and I was there to see Sarah Hagan. So anything I can do, John, or my wife, to help promote theater, culture, we will do it. But you and I have been involved a very, very long time to get it to this point, so we'll work away.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So can I have a motion then to receive this deputation and refer it to staff? Councillor Hempin, seconded by Councillor Quapis. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Yep, go ahead.
I did have a question for staff, and whether it's now or later we get some of the information or part of the information. I do first want to say thank you to John and Jackie and Rod for their dedication to theatre in Newmarket, and it's a long history of dedication, and they put in the time and the effort, and they bring forward important suggestions, and also thank them for their effort on the 10-Minute Play Festival. And I'm glad to hear it's going so well. There's some of the suggestions there's no question. There's things I'm sure we are working on, I hope we're working on, and I think, a patron email list, some social media, dedicated social media to the theatre. I think these are really, things that I'm sure we're working on and make an immense amount of success. I was recently at a reading and a performance by Lawrence Hill, who wrote the Book of Negroes, and he is a global sensation. He was born in Newmarket, and the theatre wasn't very full. And I think there is more we can do to market an event like that, because with wide enough knowledge, there's no question in my mind anyway that could have and should have been sold out. So there's no question we can do more, and we should do more. And it's a work in progress. Part of it is also, and I think staff may speak to that, and I know that John and Jackie and Rod know this, but the theatre's also in transition. We're moving towards a model of bringing in some more performances and acts like Lawrence Hill, which are very significant, and it's a different marketing model. It's a learning curve for all of us on how to make that successful. But having said that, I would like to hear a little bit from staff about what is the landscape out there for theaters, municipally run theaters. I mean, I know that we are in many business areas, and people can say we're losing money at the Magna Center, but what we're doing is investing in recreation for the community. And so if it turns out that every community theater is making money, then we should make money. And don't get me wrong, it's always a laudable goal to break even. But I also want to set it in the context of what's out there, and then also if maybe it's just the losses from the discrepancy between 2011 and 14, and it seems like there's a much larger operating deficit, and if that's the case, or if there's other explanations for that, and just so we can put it in context. But again, I thank for the report, the regular reporting here, and it keeps us focused on the theatre, which I think is incredibly important, because we've talked often about wanting to be a complete community. We have to have the arts and culture successful as it can possibly be, so that we are a complete community, and so people don't feel the need to go to Toronto all the time.
Thank you.
But some staff comments would be helpful.
Mr. McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the Deputy Mayor, Regional Councillor Taylor. So the Newmarket Theatre is rooted in a 15-plus year history of a very innovative vision and partnership. It's been a great success story in terms of operational efficiency, that being a partnership with the York Region District School Board, whereby the daytime use, the building is animated by the school board and by students, and then the operating costs, much of the operating costs related to the facility, the heat, the hydro, those sorts of things, are all covered off through the school board, through the joint partnership agreement that we have. So from that standpoint, financially and operationally, it's a very effective and innovative approach that's been taken. And in terms of where we find ourselves today with the operating to your question around that, when we look at the direct cost of the theater operating, it's consistently over the last, we tracked it the other day, over the last near 7 years, and it's been approximately $250,000 as the direct operating subsidy towards it. There are some, as the way the town does its allocations of all costing, it's spread out across business units, so there's the indirect that's spread out across all business units, but the direct cost of the theater has been between $240,000 and just under $300,000 of direct operating subsidy, and that would be well in line with competitive other theater operations across southern Ontario. The Newmarket Theatre also is very much benefits from the power of volunteerism, where in many other cases the ticket takers and people working in the theatre are actually paid staff. In the case of Newmarket, we very much benefit from the volunteer energy of our community, where that's all done through volunteerism. So our overhead cost for staffing is quite low relative to our competitors in the marketplace. Where we find ourselves right now is in a very, very good opportunistic place. And thanks to the volunteer efforts that have gone into the Ideas Committee, because it really has helped position us for where we are today and where we want to go into the future. One of the things that came out of that was said by Mr. Dowson was some great ideas, many of which have been implemented, many of which are still in the works. One of the things that we're most excited about is some recent changes on our staff team, where we've welcomed an individual in our economic development area who's used to run a marketing and media arts company. We've got somebody who used to work most recently at the Aurora Cultural Center and has worked in almost every genre of arts and culture as a new supervisor. And we have a new young manager of culture and special events. And we also have a new marketing expert working with us who has worked in the private sector for many years with companies like Microsoft and many others. So we have a tremendous marketing energy right now, and we've seen some of the success stories of that in our programming side. We need to shift our efforts to the theatre side, so we'd very much welcome the opportunity to come back to council with a report of our plan, which is in the works, and I believe we can do that within the next 45 days.
Thank you. Our next deputation then is Victoria Sparks and Kirk Bowden, and that's on behalf of the Newmarket Food Pantry.
Thank you, Mayor, members of Council, for having us here tonight. I'd just like to introduce the members of the board that are present. Our Chair, Joe Sponga. We have Keith Prophet, Vicky sitting next to me, Julianne McTavish, who is our Treasurer, Judy Pullen, who is our Secretary, Bill Stevens, and Chris Cartwright, who couldn't make it tonight, and of course, our Executive Director that keeps us running every day, Liz Blight, is here as well. My name is Kirk Bowden, and I've been volunteering for almost 4 years, and I sit on the board as well. And I come here tonight to discuss what we've accomplished over the last few years and where we're heading in the future. There's been some discussion in the community that we will not be able to sustain what we have accomplished in the last year, and I'm here to assure Council and members of the Newmarket community that we will continue to provide emergency food aid to local residents and help continue to grow the business. Our goal is to help spread awareness that the people that use our services could be your neighbors, and it's not just people that are homeless. We'd like to just share with you a quick 1-minute video for everyone to see.
Of course.
as you can see, the numbers are always growing, so we need to continue to grow as a business as well. So with the growing number of people that come to the food pantry each year, we needed to find a larger location. With the increased food donations, we were running out of room at 171 Main Street with only having 22 square foot facility. In May of 2016, the board made one of the biggest decisions in food pantry history. We called an emergency meeting and voted to move to a 6,000 square foot warehouse where we would essentially be doubling our rent. With the help of many volunteers in our community and lots of hours of hard work, we opened our new location in September of 2016. Our official grand opening that many of you members of council attended was October 12th, 2016. Now that we've moved to our new location and our rent and expenses is much higher than it was previously, we had to start doing things in order to maintain where we were staying. So we rebranded our logo and website with the help of Snap, and we made 2 corporate videos as well. The help of Vicky Sparks beside me, she manages all our social media. It's been a huge success for us. We've seen an increase of cash donations since the move, mostly because of our online presence. From November to April, we've received an approximately 50% increase in money that is coming in. It comes in through Canada Helps and people just showing up and dropping off money. Judy Poulin, our secretary, started a fantastic way to raise money where we volunteer at the local bingo hall in town, and the OLG pays us to use money only to buy food purchases. We're on pace to have approximately $42,000 come in this way for the year. A fundraising committee was formed last year, and we had our first ever food pantry fundraising event at our local curling club. Lots of prizes were donated through businesses and the members of the community, and we were able to raise $4,300 in our very first event. I'm confident next year that we'd be able to double that number. We were recently accepted for the Magna Hoedown to be one of the charity volunteers, and we expect to raise anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 that way as well. And then we cannot count out Newmarket's famous turkey drive that yours truly has started 2 years ago. We try to make sure every one of our clients have turkeys at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it is sponsored by the Keg in Newmarket, and No Frills was helping me out with the turkeys as well. They did a fantastic job. Last December, we handed out a remarkable 370 turkeys. Every client that came through the door in the month of December received a turkey, and the overflow went into January as well. One of our other programs that we've started is the shut-in program. The growing number of seniors in Newmarket and the need support and people with accessibility issues, we started the home delivery service. So once a month, volunteer drivers come to the pantry and we deliver food to our clients that can't make it in. We currently are delivering to 40 homes with the help of chats. I just wanted to mention Susan Stubbings is in charge of this operation, and she spends countless hours organizing and getting this ready each month, and we can't thank her enough. In closing, I wanted to thank you for listening to us today. Our business is growing, and we can see this by the number of donations that are coming in. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are an emergency service, and we are only able to provide food for people for 3 days of service. So hopefully, as we grow, we may be able to give out more down the road. We are appreciative of the support that we have received from the community, and we hope they will continue to support us as our needs are always growing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or clarification from members of council? Being none, then, can I have a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Bazance, Councillor Broom. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. I understand the very valuable service that you provide to our community. My wife drives, I believe, every Wednesday or Friday. I can't remember.
It's usually the first of the month.
But
Yeah.
certainly it reinforces the very genuine and deep need that our community has and the support that you provide. So you and your board should be very proud of the contribution that you're making to our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have two more additional deputations. The first one is Paul DeLilio, and that is with respect to the interim control bylaw. Mr. DeLillo, we permit up to 5 minutes. Is it Peter? Sorry, Peter. Should be Peter.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Van Dynen, members of council, staff. I'm here from Larkin Land Use Planners, Inc., representing the owners of 2 properties on Old Main Street, both 231 Old Main Street and 241 Old Main Street. They are the last 2 properties on the east side of Old Main Street at the north end of the subject study area for the internal control bylaw. On behalf of our clients, we would like you to consider not going ahead with the internal control bylaw for the following reasons. Many of the studies identified in the staff report are also already a requirement for development applications in terms of having to submit a traffic impact study, stormwater management report, servicing reports, and in the absence of urban design guidelines for a certain area, certainly urban design is looked at in certain situations. Not sure if it's necessary in such a small area. So the internal control bylaw is a very powerful tool. Our clients purchased these properties recently in hopes of developing them. We are aware of the official plan policies. The developments proposed meet the intent of the official plan in that they are semi-detached and single detached dwellings proposed. As a result, we feel our development applications can proceed without the need for an internal control bylaw. Again, as indicated, the studies identified in the report are usually required as part of the development application. And in particular, a stormwater management report certainly looks like a larger area in terms of storm drainage, the catchment area. So if there are concerns for stormwater management, they would be addressed through individual studies for these projects. We're not aware of any other projects that have been submitted to staff. We have met with staff for both projects on April 11th and April 25th to deal with the pre-consultation matters that are usually identified through that process. In closing, we understand that it is a difficult discussion and deliberations that you will have, and we certainly wish you good luck on that in your deliberations. And in closing, we would again would rather that the internal control bylaw not be passed and that our developments be allowed to proceed in the normal process. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of clarification? We do have another deputation. We do have a report, and we do have the bylaw later on in the agenda. Council intends to seek some legal advice prior to that, so the balance of the discussion will take on somewhat later in the agenda. Could I have a motion, please, to receive the deputation? Councillor Hempin, Councillor, Regional Councillor. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next deputation is Amber Stewart. Amber? Again, we permit up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Amber Stewart, and I am counsel for Azure Homes, Inc., which is the owner or the effective owner of the 2 sites which are at the south end of the study area and are municipally described as 172 Old Main Street and 178 Old Main Street. I know that council has a staff report before it, and we are here to effectively support the staff recommendation that's been outlined with respect to how my client's lands would be treated. And specifically, staff have recommended that if council does decide to adopt the interim control bylaw, that my client's sites at 172 and 178 be exempted from the application of the interim control bylaw. I'll keep my submissions very short, but just by way of background, my client submitted an application for rezoning and draft plan of subdivision to redevelop these sites in January of this year, in January of 2017. There have been a round of comments that have been received, and a resubmission was actually made today. And a public meeting has been set to consider the applications for June 19th. My clients have been working to address all of the comments, and I hope that they've done that, but I don't propose to get into that detail here. In my submission, staff have done a very good job with the staff report in setting out the basis for the interim control bylaw, but also their rationale for proposing that my client's lands be exempted from its application. And with respect to that, I'd just like to focus very briefly on the clergy principle. And I understand, I've just heard that you'll be seeking your own legal advice as well. But just to recap, the clergy principle is a well-known legal principle that effectively provides that an applicant is entitled to have their applications considered under the policy regime that is in place, the policy framework that's in place at the time that the applications were made. And of course, that would be the current policy regime. So staff have pointed out that there really isn't any benefit that would result by including the Azure site in the interim control bylaw. And so for that purpose, staff have suggested exempting it. The one thing that I'd like to focus on is to reiterate that the basis of the clergy principle, it's founded in fairness. It's a principle of fairness, that an applicant is entitled to certainty in the land use planning process, and they're entitled to know that the goalposts won't shift in the course of that application process, midway through the filing of an application and midway through that consideration. And so my clients are very appreciative of the staff report recommendation and the recognition of that fairness principle that should apply to the consideration of their site. And so again, and just to sum up, we reiterate our support for that staff recommendation and ask that if council does decide to adopt that interim control bylaw tonight, that it exempt the 2 sites that my clients own, which are the subject of the applications. And those are all of my comments.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification? Regional Councillor?
Thanks. Either yourself or member staff, but the reference to the public meeting on June 19th, that's the first I've heard about that. Is that set, or when was it set, or?
I've just been informed by my client's planning consultant that it's been set. I don't know that that's what I've been informed, but I haven't seen a notice.
Is anybody on staff able to comment on that?
Mr. Nohammer?
Through Mr. Mayor, I see the Director of Planning is here as well. So we are working towards a public meeting, and I'm not aware of that date myself, but it sounds about right in terms of when we would be bringing this forward. And I would ask planning staff to comment further if they know the date.
Mr. Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just mention that the Director of Planning, I didn't realize that he was here, indicated that that's a targeted date. It has not been formalized as yet.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to receive this presentation? So moved. Councillor Hampton, seconded by Councillor Kerwin. All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that deals with our deputations. Next item on our agenda then is the approval of our council minutes of April the 24th. Minutes are before you. Are there any corrections? Have a motion then to approve the council minutes. Councillor Kerwin, Regional Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Next item then is item number 6, Council's closed session of April 24th. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes, please? Councillor Clampes? Councillor Bazance? All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Now, the closed session on April 24th, Council did receive verbal legal advice relative to the clock tower application. Reports by regional representatives.
Thanks very much. I just thought I'd share with everybody that at our committee of the whole last week at Regional Council, we received our greening strategy. It's an annual report that keeps track and keeps us informed on the progress on various areas we're trying to move forward in relation to having a green canopy and a tree planting, etc. This actually is an area where I've noticed quite a growing interest in the public, paying a lot more attention to sort of specifically where we're going and what we're achieving in relation to land securement, tree planting, et cetera. And just happy to say, first of all, I'd like to just remind everybody that the York region, while we're seeing enormous growth, is still remains and will remain 69% of the region is within the Greenbelt or the Oak Ridges Moraine and permanently protected lands. However, within that, we still have highly urbanized areas and urbanizing areas, and we need to continue to be vigilant to plant trees, to replace trees with the emerald ash borer challenge that we've been facing, et cetera. So just pleased to report back that since 2013, the region has secured 300 and protected 323 hectares of land, and that's about an annual average of 80 hectares, and that's their target, is roughly in that area, to continue to do that year over year over year. This is not just a one-time thing. The other, I think, achievement in this area that's very important is that the region has a very aggressive tree planting program, whether that's partnering with other agencies, whether it's street tree planting or larger tree planting on secured land. This past year, they planted 93,188 trees, which is, I think, an incredibly significant number. So I just wanted to share that, you know, whether it's, again, you know, 1,000 trees that were planted under emerald ash borer, or people engaged in those programs, the forest management plan was approved. There's a lot of progress in this area. York Region continues to have a very, very significant amount of green space and protected lands. But we do have progress to make, particularly in our urban canopy, and I know Newmarket, as well as all the municipalities, have targets in that area and plans to achieve that. And so I just thought I'd provide that update. Thank you.
Thank you. First item then is the Committee of the Whole meeting of May the 8th. The minutes are before you. Are there any items that any members wish to deal with separately? Councillor Bay?
Yes, I'd just like to pull item number 25 and the next council meeting budget direction for the 2018 budget. So make a comment on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? Could I have a motion then to adopt the balance of the minutes and the recommendations? Councillor Vague. Councillor Quapis. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That's good. Thank you. Item number 25. The I'm sorry, item number 25 is the King George School on the minutes. It's item number 30. It might have been item number 25 on the agenda, and was actually dealt with as item number 30. I'm sorry, I've written down the wrong number. Yeah, it's item number 30. Budget process, yeah. That was the deferral.
Okay, my apologies for that.
Okay.
It was item number 30 then. Looking at the direction to staff regarding our 2018 budget.
So maybe just from a procedural point of view, let's adopt item number 25, which has not been adopted by consent.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kerwin, seconded by Councillor Quapis.
Mr. Mayor.
Item number 30, part of that discussion in those minutes was related to the clock tower.
Yep.
And hopefully we are not going to enter into that discussion. If we do, I'll be excluding myself from the conversation again.
So the intent is to be the general budget direction?
That's correct. There'll be no specific discussion on the clock tower. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Glad you clarified that. So all those in favor of item number 25? Any opposed? That is carried. Now what we need to do then administratively is to reconsider item number 30. So can I have a motion to reconsider item number 30? Councillor Vague, Councillor Quapis. Do we require a 2/3 majority on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Could I have your motion with respect to item number 30? Councillor Vague.
I will move the item. I just wish to speak to it. And basically what we moved to do was to defer this discussion to May 29th, Committee of the Whole meeting.
Could I have a seconder?
30.
This is the September 30th budget discussions.
For the whole budget discussion?
No, this is the budget process and target, item number 30.
Oh.
So I need a seconder for that, which was the deferral and the recommendations. Does anybody like? Councillor Broom.
Okay.
Speaking to the item number 30, which is the budget process and target update.
Okay.
And the recommendations to defer this to the May 29th meeting. Councillor Vague.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As part of our discussion to defer this item to the May 29th meeting, there was direction given to staff, asking staff to bring into our budget discussions the cost of some traffic mitigation issues that we brought forward, specifically the cost of installing low-profile speed humps and asking for best practices in other municipalities. I brought that forward because there are so many things that we as a council, we as a town, I'm going to use the word we as a town do very, very well, that we've received provincial awards for and national awards for, and we're very, very proud of. But be quite frank and blunt, speed mitigation is not one of those areas that we can consider ourselves leaders in the province or in the town. There are other municipalities that have gone more forward than us and have had more success with us, and we are trailing behind some of those municipalities. So I felt it was very important for us to include in our budget discussions specifically traffic mitigation measures such as low-profile speed humps. It's something that has members of this council have been talking about for many, many years. Residents have been talking about. Certainly, the approaches we've taken to traffic mitigation has not been terribly successful, quite frankly. We haven't had a lasting impact. And I think also, and I'm going to once again use the word we, we've been a bit tone deaf to the concerns of the residents. And I'll give one example, that we had a petition come in asking for speed humps back in May 2012. And we didn't really respond to this petition except to put up a couple of signs saying bicycle lanes. So there's a great interest in this in the town. I'm sure other councillors have heard about it from their constituents. And I also know it's not a unanimous feeling on council. People do feel differently about this. So I am glad that finally that we are going to bring forward, at least into our budget discussions, looking at what are the costs of having speed humps and also looking at what our best practices have been throughout the other municipalities.
Thank you. Councillor Broom is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not opposed to hearing what the cost or the impact is on what speed humps would do for traffic mitigation, but I think I'd also like to enter into the discussion the removable speed humps as well. I understand that they're more cost effective, and if we're looking to find information about cost, I believe that that should be part of the request.
Thank you. Councillor Hempen, then Councillor Clapis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate that the council would like to see that considered in the budget and look at what those costs are. I myself as a councillor numerous times have been asked over the last 7 years from different street residents for speed humps. We have one resident here who would probably love to see them as well in my ward. But first of all, I think before we go down the road of investigating cost, I'd like to see us investigate the usefulness of them and recommendations from our traffic staff. I think we're putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit. I think what we need to do is look at what other municipalities are doing and what those best practices are, whether our staff recommend these type of traffic speeding mitigating bumps or humps. So I was wondering if the council would be willing to have staff bring forward a report as to best practices and the usefulness, or not the usefulness, but the best practices in regards to these speed humps in our municipality, prior to putting it into our budget and adding those costs to our budget, because we see already we're quite constrained, and we have the report in front of us. We've asked for a budget. Our staff have come back and said, look, we're having a hard time meeting this budget. So I'm hoping that the member of council will consider looking into the usefulness and the practicalness of these speed humps prior to adding it to the cost or putting it in our budget.
Thank you. Councillor Quapis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a huge advocate of speed mitigation through not just Newmarket, but Ontario-wide. As many of you know, I've been lobbying Queen's Park for a few years with various implementations that they're considering. When it comes to speed humps themselves, I would like to see speed humps being considered that are movable speed humps in combination with many other mitigation activities that we have going on right now. As a matter of fact, we have some pilot programs that engineering is dealing with currently. I would like to see the report of that, as well as adding on speed humps that would be removable, but at the same time making sure that every ward receives the same type of treatment. In other words, if we have certain type of speed mitigation pilot projects going in one ward, I would like to make sure that each and every ward has the same amount in their problem areas, pilots installed as well.
Thank you. Councillor Big.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a response to Councillor Hempin. What I did ask staff was actually for a report on best practices, as much as you're suggesting, but I also do want to continue to include in that what are the costs. We may have best practices and then find that we can't afford it, or how much of it can we afford, or maybe it's more affordable than we thought it would be. So I think without information on cost, and that's all it is, information. It's certainly not, and it's something that we as council have to vote on to whether we include in the budget or not. But I think part of our best practices also includes costs, and that helps us weigh, that guides us in our decisions. We certainly don't want $1 million solution to a $10 problem, but we do want a $10 solution to a $10 problem. So we do need that cost information.
Thank you. Councillor Bazans, and then Councillor Hempin.
Yes, thank you. I also concur that speed mitigation is something that comes up repeatedly, not only here, but certainly in conversations and discussions and emails and complaints and concerns that we receive from our residents in our respective wards and across the town. I recall that when we had the public meeting last week, that where we were discussing the potential building of an apartment within a residential area, that out of, I don't know, over 30 deputants that we had, the majority of them spoke to the issue and concern about traffic and traffic problems in that particular area, and their concern that not so much with the building as the addition of 70 cars on the road in that particular community and what that would do. So, I think it's more than just one or two people that we're hearing from. It's a widespread problem, and we're all grappling with how we can identify some solutions that will help change behavior, and that's the difficult part, is what's the best means of changing behavior of people who are just bad drivers, who are not following the rules of the road, or not obeying the speed limits, that are driving with increasing distractions and texting while they're driving and so forth. But I agree that we have to look at by what means do we have at our disposal to try to change behavior and try to make our streets safer for our residents. I'm just kind of questioning whether, this is an important discussion, and I'm just questioning whether, it fits within the context of a motion that we've deferred to look at budget targets and that sort of thing. I mean, it's part of what we need to look at in the budget, but it's a bigger issue and discussion. We have recently purchased, I believe, some speed boards radar boards that are not radar boards, but speed boards that we're still waiting for. I understand that there was some challenges with procuring the speed boards, but it's something that we promised every ward would get a speed board that would now go around to our problem areas and problem streets, so that it'd be something that's very visible to the residents to see that we're, you know, trying to address and trying to look at how we could encourage and encourage better driving and change behavior. So I don't know where we're at with those speed boards, but I do think and support Councillor Vey in saying we need to have something that looks at best practices, that gives us an opportunity to look at what other municipalities are doing, where they've had success in perhaps approaching things differently than we've been doing, and look at a much more comprehensive approach, rather than just saying, no, don't even talk to us about speed humps or bumps or anything. We're going to put some signs in the lawn. We're going to ask YRP, York Region Police, to come and do some more enforcement. You know, then they have some challenges with resources. So, you know, I do agree that this is a concern. It's a big issue, and we need a comprehensive approach.
Thank you, and I agree with you, Councillor, that the motion here is with respect to establishing a target and how we go forward with the overall budget. And a component of that might be the amount of resources we direct towards traffic safety and traffic mitigation. But the essence of what we're doing here is let's find a framework that we can establish at least a target as we go forward. Mr. Shelton?
Mr. Mayor, I could wait for the other members of council to speak.
Do you have Councillor Hampton and then Councillor Kerwin?
I've spoken already. I'd like to hear what Councillor Kerwin has to say.
Okay. Councillor Kerwin?
Yeah, Councillor Bazance, I support what you said about bad drivers. So I've gone to the source, and I've been involved heavily with this drive test center, which was located on the Harry Walker Parkway. And since they've been located there, it's been a nightmare for me, and it's been a nightmare for the residents of my ward on Manning, and Beechwood, and Hazelwood, and Carlson, and everywhere else. An absolute nightmare. And the problem is, it's the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario. They must tighten up the driving regulations. It's terrible. No wonder we have so many accidents. That's the problem. People aren't trained properly to drive. And I came into this unknowingly. And that was the source. If the driving regulations are tightened up and people learn how to drive properly, and the Ministry of Transportation sets up an area, land, where people can learn how to drive, that they're not, this center is pushed through, they have to do so many every 25 minutes. That's it. You have to go out to Manning in one street, or Hazelwood. So it's a deep-rooted problem. And the problem is, and I met with our MPP, Chris Ballard, and he basically agrees with me. It's that the Ministry of Transportation must provide decent driving regulations and training for drivers, or you're just going to, it's the driving accidents just increase because they're not providing the education or the training that drivers, and they're pushed through. You should go out there to the test drive center. People are lined up out there from all over because there's only one test drive center on the Harry Walker Parkway for 1.2 million people, not only of York Region, but of Scarborough, Etobicoke, Agincourt, and they're pushing them through every half hour so they can get a license. And that's the problem. And I agree with you totally. And until we change the root of the problem, then you're going to have the problems that we are confronted with as elected officials. But I'm doing my best to force the minister to change what they're doing. And until we do that, then you're going to continue. All we're doing is putting in speed humps. Imagine every road in Newmarket, every street in Newmarket with speed humps like Cotter and Oak. Okay. Every road, we go nowhere. our streets aren't drivable anymore.
Thank you.
But I don't disagree with you. I agree totally with you. But it's the foundation. It's the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is our test drive center, and the minister farms it out to a private corporation.
I'd like to go back to the intent of the motion and setting the targets for the budget and the process and the framework for that. Councillor Hempel.
Thank you.
I will not support the motion, and I want to give my reasons why. We've heard.
Let me clarify. Just the motion that we have is that we refer this report to May 29th.
Oh, correct.
That's the only motion that we're dealing with today, and that is to refer the budget. Now, we did get
I
sidetracked.
will not be supporting that motion in the future to add it to our, may I hear the motion, the notice of motion, or the motion?
The motion is that the report be received and that it be deferred to the May 29th. So and that is the report that talks about the
speed humps. Can you give me this?
No, it talks about the budget target and the process for the budget target. So we've gotten ourselves sidelined into an issue that carries the passion of many members of council, and I understand that. But the motion that we're dealing with here is the report, Financial Services 2017-29. It's the 2018 process and target update. And the motion that is on the table right now is that this report be deferred until May 29th. If we want to have a discussion about speed humps, etc., we might do that at another time.
Thank you. I know I heard the deferral and the deferral to the future date, but I believe part of that motion was that speed bumps be considered as part of the budget item.
Yeah, so I don't think it's part of the motion at this point.
Okay.
Just highlighting that we requested for information on costs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regional Councillor, and then RCA.
Thanks very much. Just so the public viewing this might be a little bit confused, what we're dealing with is a motion here that's related to the previous committee of the whole, related to setting a budget target, which we do annually to try to take into consideration the kinds of cost drivers that are driving our budget forward and what council and staff collectively feel is an appropriate target for this annual budgeting process. There's been a related request for information regarding speed mitigation or speed bumps, et cetera. So I guess two things I'd like to say is that a couple things I want to say is, first of all, we have looked at this topic or speed mitigation topics or other types of traffic calming measures previously. We've taken a comprehensive look at them. We're able to refer to provincial guidelines, to other associations across the province that provide insight into what are the types of appropriate mitigation measures, under what circumstances, and staff rely on those heavily. I think we all know that. So that doesn't mean there isn't more work to be done here or that we can't continue to look at options to address, and frankly, addressing traffic speeding and safety in a community in every single municipality in this province is an ongoing project. It never ends, and it requires constant attention. So I support that. I know we're adding budget dollars for the last couple of years to this area because it's a council priority. I will say that I have a bit of hesitation in this area. I'm not closed to the idea of exploring it, but I think we have to make sure that whatever we do, it's driven by best practices, it's driven by data, it's driven by an informed decision-making process, because as Councillor Kerwin pointed out, if we were to ask the audience right now, or a full audience, how many of them would like speed bumps on their street, I think we'd be surprised how many would say yes. How many people would like to drive over speed bumps on every street? I think most would say no. So that's a bit of a catch-22 we've got. That doesn't mean it's a topic we can't touch, but it's fraught with difficulty. And so I think we have to make sure that if we're taking measures, that we're doing them because they've been proven effective and because there's data to support the implementation. So I don't mind looking at this. I will say, though, that I would like to personally hear from staff, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what is your perception of the direction to staff related to this topic, and how do you think, or how do you intend to act on it? Because, as has been mentioned by a couple of people, is this really a budget target related issue or a budget related issue, or is it just a policy related issue? Or not just, but, and does policy with cost implications come, and can it come in time for the budget target or the budget process later on? And so any help from staff on how they see us
Mr. Sheldon?
working through this would be helpful.
Mr. Mayor, what I was going to add is that during this discussion on this item, it was direction to staff to report back relative to costs associated with speed humps. And it may have gone a bit further than that. We'll have to check our notes. But just from this discussion, so there wasn't a motion on that, but from this discussion, there are some nuances to that. There's been reference to a distributed and equal amount of attention being paid to each ward, and whether that is the appropriate thing to do. So what I would recommend is that perhaps you take a notice of motion at this point, and that the motion is shaped so that staff know precisely what you're looking for, in as much as we are trying to ensure that we are addressing resources in the right direction as per the strategic priorities of council. And the strategic priorities of council do include traffic safety. So I'd like to also just refresh with the Commissioner what we are in fact programmed to do this year and what we intend to bring in as part of the 2018 budget. Okay.
So we'll address notices of motion later in the evening. That's part of our agenda. At this point, I'd like to deal with the preliminary. Yep. I do have the regional councillor and then yourself.
Sorry, and can I just, in addition to this, wherever this lands in process about what's appropriate or notice of motion and the scope of it and if it's supported or not, I think though that either way, I think it might be a good idea to, it might be a bit overwhelming, but it might be a good idea to go back 5 or 10 years even and send council all of the various reports we've had related to this topic. And I mean, some of them, I know some of them looked specifically at speed humps. I might not have looked at costs, but speed humps versus other mitigation measures, which ones are effective where, why they're recommended or not. And we have, so it's not like we've never considered this. So, but I think we all should maybe get, I'll be honest, I could reread some of them and just be reminded about what information we already do have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Vague.
Thank you very much. At our meeting of, committee whole meeting of May 8th, I actually did ask whether I should be making a motion or just giving direction to staff, and there was consensus that at this point, direction to staff would be sufficient, because really all we're looking at is what are the costs and some best practices. Council may decide to go forward, it may not, and then I think we have to fine tune that policy. At this point, to go with the motion and starting to get right down to the granular on a policy, we will miss our 2018 budget. That's a sure way to delay this into a different council term, quite frankly. So I will not be making notice of motion on it. The direction was given to staff and with the consensus of this council, so I think that should stand. And again, really, I'm just looking at what are the costs of speed humps and what are the best practices. And that's information that we need because of budget implications for our 2018 budget. If we start going very far beyond that right now, we will miss our budget deadlines, and I can imagine this information not even coming in until we have a new council term. So I will not be making a notice of motion, and I'll just let the information request stand.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion as it stands with respect to the framework for the budget process and the budget target? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. I believe that deals with the committee of the whole minutes. May the 8th. We do now also have the closed session meeting of May the 8th. Could I have a motion, please, to approve those minutes? Councillor Clapies, Councillor Broom. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. The closed session that we had on May the 8th was relative to receiving some solicitor-client advice, and that was relative to the King George School. I'm going to hold item number 9, which is the interim control bylaw report, until after we've had the benefit of legal advice, which is scheduled in our closed session. Item number 10, correspondence from the regional councils, from the regional office with regard to increasing the number of members for Vaughan. Could I have a motion with respect to this item, please? Regional councillor?
Thanks very much. Again, just so the public understands or aware of what we're discussing here, it's been a formal request from the City of Vaughan to increase the composition of regional council by 1 member to address the issues that they perceive related to representation by population.
Motion?
The motion will be to refer this or to defer this to the next committee of the whole meeting to be held in conjunction with a special council meeting to ratify it at that time.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Quapis. Okay, speaking to the motion then?
So I've explained briefly what it's about, and in terms of the deferral, the reason it's to the next committee of the whole and then to be followed by a special council meeting to ratify it is because there is a deadline related to this item about another member in terms of the timeline required by provincial legislation vis-a-vis an election and timeline and notification. So there is some deadlines that have to be met, and Vaughan has made this request. All municipalities are dealing with it. That there has to be a triple majority met in relation to this item. In terms of municipalities, that means that 5 of the 9 municipalities have to vote to support this if it's to move forward. However, this came to us on Friday of last week, and council, I think, and myself haven't, and the mayor haven't really had time to understand this, digest it. I know other municipalities have also made deferrals this week just to get a little bit of time to think this over and understand it, the implications and the arguments being made, frankly, by the you want to at least give Vaughan a fair hearing and understand what the request is all about, and then make a decision accordingly. But I think I could personally use a little bit of time to do a little research and to understand the issue a little more fully.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Quapis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's really important for a decision of this size that will impact decisions in York Region going forward to fully understand the impact on the smaller municipalities and at the same time understand the need for Vaughan to increase by 1 vote. So as a total representation at the table of the York Region, we truly really need to discuss and understand what the true impact would be for a municipality such as Newmarket. And I do feel that it's important to have a little bit more time to digest it and research it better.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call a question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Let's move on to bylaws then, with the exception of item number 13, which is the interim control bylaw. Madam Clerk, if you could read the bylaws, please.
Bylaw 2017-23 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 2010-40 regarding the zoning for 1166 and 1186 Nicholson Road. Bylaw 2017-24 is to provide for a noise exemption from the noise bylaw to permit the Relay for Life event at Pickering College until 1 a.m. on June 23rd. Bylaw 2017-26 is a bylaw to designate the George Binns House at 379 Botsford Street as a property of cultural heritage value or interest. Bylaw 2017-27 is a bylaw to implement official plan amendment 18 concerning 400 Park Avenue and 405 and 407 Botsford Street. Bylaw 2017-28 is a zoning bylaw amendment concerning 400 Park Avenue and 405 and 407 Botsford Street. And bylaw 2017-29 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 2011-24, being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the town, specifically amending Schedule 3 related to stop signs.
Does anyone wish to deal with any of these bylaws separately? 14. Number 14, which is the heritage designation. Okay. Could I have a motion then for all of the bylaws with the exception of 2017-25, which is the interim control bylaw, and 2017-26, which is the heritage designation. Could I have a motion with respect to the remaining items? Councillor Vague, Councillor Quapis. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item number 14, the bylaw for the heritage designation. Regional Councillor.
Thanks very much. Is this, first of all, is this the White House on the northwest corner of Botsford and Lorne? Does anybody know? Does anybody on council know? Does anybody, staff know? Before we pass it, do we know what house it is?
Yeah.
I can't hear.
Can we pull? Yeah.
I can't hear, so I couldn't. Oh, okay.
We could pull it down on Google. Let's Google it. All right. In the interim.
Yeah, and while we're at that, my second question is, is the owner in support of this?
Yes, I got an email, they were in favor of it, John.
Mr. Nohammer, correct?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, the owner is in support of it, and it came forward at the request of the owner to have the property designated.
So if possible, I'm not sure it's appropriate in the bylaw, but I would think maybe, well, there's some supporting material, but could we have a map and particularly the owners, the position of the owner? We've discussed this, I think, virtually in every heritage designation, whether it's with the consent of the owner or not, or at the request of the owner or not. Can you blow up the street view picture? Maybe that'd be best. Can you click on that one? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I know the house. Is it, is that who emailed you this? Corrections?
Yeah, that's what came up when I pulled it down as well.
Correction and Dave, was that?
So, do we have a motion dealing with this then?
Okay, well, so we believe that's the house, or we know that? Do we know? No?
37.
But, okay, so if we can just maybe get a house map or photo or something in the future, and just include in the report that the consent is provided. That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin, then Councillor Hempel, I guess.
Before I came to council, I was downloading my email, and specifically, I think it came from our legal department that the owner had consented to the heritage designation of this property, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Okay.
I think there's a good opportunity for process improvement there to identify in the bylaw itself if the consent is there and the additional information. So that would be helpful. So can we deal with this this bylaw? Can I have a motion with respect to it, please? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, we're into notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Being none, then any motions? Announcements and community events. Start with Councillor Bazans.
Commercial and industrial property owners are invited to attend a public information center regarding the vacant unit property tax rebate program on Tuesday, May 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Town of Newmarket municipal offices. This public meeting is hosted by the Northern 6 municipalities of York Region, including Aurora, East Gwillimbury, Georgina, King, Newmarket, and Witchert-Stouffville. Based on the opportunity provided by the Province of Ontario, municipalities are considering options to modify or eliminate the vacant unit property tax rebate program for commercial and industrial property. There will be a brief presentation, and representatives from the Northern 6 municipalities and York Region will be available. If you're unable to attend, feedback can be provided through an online survey at newmarket.ca/vacancy rebate. For more information, you can also call 905-895-5193.
Thank you. Councillor Broom.
Thank you. Residents are invited to attend a public meeting on Monday, May the 29th at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. An application has been made for a zoning bylaw amendment for the lands located on the west side of Yonge Street, south of Joe Persicini Drive, municipally known as 16,200 and 16,250 Yonge Street. The net effect of this application is to permit a draft plan of subdivision consisting of 13 single detached dwellings, 10 semi-detached dwellings, and 150 townhomes, along with open space lands for stormwater management, environmental sustainability, and forest restoration. Please contact the Planning Department at 905-953-5321 or email planning@newmarket.ca for more information.
Thank you. Councillor Clapis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two announcements over here. The first one is regarding Sacred Canoe Project. On Tuesday, May 16th, which is tomorrow, students of Sacred Heart Catholic Secondary School are inviting all residents to the Old Town Hall to showcase their Sacred Canoe Project, featuring First Nations artwork, music, and dance inspired by people of Webekiu, Atawapiskat, and Inalik School. There will be stunning gallery presentation of art and epic 17-foot long painted canoe representing First Nations cultural history. At 7 p.m., there will be a live performance of First Nations drumming and singing by Jacob Charles and Charging Horse singers, as well as original songs by our very own Glenn Murray. I hope to see everyone at the Old Town Hall tomorrow. On Monday, May 29th residents are invited to attend a public meeting on Monday, May 29th at 7 p.m. at the Council Chambers right here at 395 Mulock Drive. An application has been made for a zoning bylaw amendment for lands allocated at 106 Main Street South. The net effect of this application is to change the zoning from single detached residential to historic downtown urban center zone. No change is currently proposed to the existing building on the property. Further information is available by contacting Planning Department at 905-953-5321.
Councillor Hempel.
Newmarket's really working hard to create an active transportation in our town, and we're creating a bicycle lane that will run from Leslie Street out to Yonge Street. This will be a dedicated lane on both sides of the road, which will allow for safe passage for bicycle riders. We also have an incredible trail, the Tom Taylor Trail, that runs along our river, which accesses the town from north to south and creates a wonderful place for families to enjoy, and also safe passage for bicycles to ride on. This Monday at May 29th is Smart Commute Central York Annual Bike to Work Day at Riverwalk Commons, which is at 200 Doug Duncan Drive, and it's right off the trail. I encourage people to come out to this. It's a wonderful event, and if we can get people riding their bikes and walking to work more often, it's good for your health, it's good for our community, it takes traffic off the road, it creates safer streets. Take action on climate change, leave your car at home, and ride your bike to work. From 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., enjoy a free continental breakfast, giveaways, prizes, exhibits on your way to work. This event kicks off Bike to Month Week, which runs June 30th, and for more information, you can visit smartcommute.ca. Thank you.
Thank you. Regional Councillor.
Thanks very much. The town is working with Metrolinx in the region of York to move a mobility hub study forward in relation to the GO train area on Davis Drive and the various types of interfaces of options for transportation out of that area. And that's everything from the trail to the Viva to GO, bus, GO train, et cetera. So there's a lot going on in the area. I know there's some people who have been looking forward to this study being done. It should be very informative. It's also a very important piece of work for the town in terms of planning properly for the future. So it's going to help ensure that the land use is working with transportation options, and that they're integrated, and that they support the future growth in that area and throughout the town. So again, this is an important meeting, and it's one that I do encourage people who are interested in this part of town or in this area of work to come out and participate in. There will be a brief presentation at 7 p.m. It will be on May 18th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Newmarket Seniors Meeting Place. That's at 474 Davis Drive, or right across from the GO train on Davis Drive. So that's 6:30 to 8:30 this Thursday, May 18th, and it's the Mobility Hub Study Open House. If you want more information, please contact Adrian Kamara, our senior planner, And you can reach him at the town at 905-895-5193 and extension 2459. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this one gives me a lot of pleasure to announce. Join me Sunday, May 28th for the Easter Seals Run Walk at Newmarket Riverwalk Commons, 200 Doug Duncan Drive. Over the past 41 years, this popular community event founded by Joe Persicini has become an indelible fixture in Newmarket, raising nearly $3 million to help children and youth with physical disabilities. Whether you're looking to set a personal best in the 10K or simply enjoy a leisurely walk with your family while raising funds for Easter Seals Ontario, there's something for everyone. Register online at persiccinirun.org. And Joe, thank you so much for starting this a long time ago, 41 years ago. This will be the 42nd Run Walkathon, and I've never missed one, and I'll be down there. And I hope a lot of people will join me. Also, I'd like to thank the residents of On Bogart Pond, both Condominium 1 and Condominium 2, the corporations, for the successful cleanup they organized on Saturday, May the 13th, and I will tell them that all the garbage has been removed and successfully stored at the Ops Center. So once again, you did a great job in that area of Leslie and Mulock. So thanks again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Vague.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few announcements for Ward 1 residents tonight. Very first is we have the Ward 1 Community Waste Disposal and Recycling event coming up on Saturday, May 27th. This is the 16th annual event, and it'll be at the Magnus Center from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. This is an opportunity for Ward 1 residents to empty their backyards, their basement, their yards of waste and recyclable material. We'll have on site the Salvation Army to accept donations for items that they can resell. We will also have Artex Environmental for safe and secure environmental electronics disposal. We will have the York Region Lions football team there to accept returns of deposit bottles. We'll have paper shredding by Iron Mountain. We will also have metal disposal, Packer trucks there, etc. So this is exclusive to residents of Ward 1, and you will be required to bring your ID. It's pretty exciting, and last year we had, I believe, just over 500 cars come through, so it was very popular. And if people would like more information on that, please give me a call at 905-895-70995, or you can contact me at tomvague@gmail.com. Other things we have coming up is there'll be a basketball court built at Ken Sturgeon Park in Stonehaven in Ward 1, and this basketball court surface will also be used as a surface for our outdoor ice rink. So we invite residents of Ward 1 in the immediate neighborhood to Public Information Center right here in the council chambers on Tuesday, May 30th, to meet with the consultants and staff to talk about the basketball court and how it would function as an ice rink in the winter times. And this is a naturally frozen rink, not artificially frozen rink. And we have been building this rink for 3 years and always had a challenge with unlevel ground, so it'll be a real treat to this winter's rink to be built on a level ground. Also, we have coming up another public information session, and this will be for the building of a splash pad at Frank Stronach Park, once again in Ward 1. This public information center will be on Thursday, June 8th at the Magnus Center, and this will be an opportunity for residents and all of Newmarket to come by and look at our design options and to provide your feedback for that. Both public information centers, by the way, are from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And because we do have on Thursday, June 8th at the Magnus Center the PIC for the splash pad, I will not be having my regular first Tuesday of the month drop in because it'll be a little bit redundant because we'll be there 2 days later on Thursday, June 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. The town has adopted the Monday, June 12th Newmarket Blood Donor Clinic at the Holiday Inn Express to encourage blood donations and recruit new donors. The town's goal is to collect 150 units to be consistent with recognizing Canada's 150 celebrations during clinic hours, which will be from 1:30 to 7:30. Please donate and schedule an appointment today through blood, blood.ca, or call 1-888-2-DONATE. And reminding all of our residents, it's in you to give. And if we could reach the goal of 150 units, that would be a new goal or a new milestone for that session at the Holiday Inn Express. Municipal offices will be closed on Victoria Day Monday, May 22nd, and will reopen on Tuesday, May 23rd. And if anybody has anything that they'd wish to discuss with me, I will be at Mayor in the Square at the Farmers Market on Saturday, May 27th, from 10 a.m. until noon. And our next council meeting is Tuesday, June the 6th at 7 p.m. New business. Any items of new business? Councillor Kerwin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to announce that the piano raising fund is now over. All the keys have been sold. About 8 months ago, my wife, Erica Kerwin, realized there was not going to be a piano in the old town hall. So she set out to raise enough money to buy a Steinway. And I must say that the residents of Newmarket have been overly generous. We started off with the objective of raising $30,000, and I must say that our account is at $57,000. And my wife negotiated with the Steinway organization to purchase a Steinway, handcrafted, worth about $100,000. We paid $40,000 for it. It is at the Old Town Hall. It has been used by many people, particularly Sarah Hagan, who had a concert there. There will be a gala on June the 10th at 6 p.m. for those who donated, and members of Visual Performing Arts Newmarket, and it will be hosted by the town of Newmarket, Visual Performing Arts Newmarket, and the Piano Fund, which was my wife. And I must say that the last key was sold on last week. So what a success story. When we started off, we didn't know whether we would do it or not, but when Steinway came through with a $100,000 piano for $40,000, we upped the ante, we raised the money, so it's there, and it's a beautiful piano. So to the residents of Newmarket, members of council, my colleagues, thank you so much for allowing my wife to raise that sum of money.
Thank you. Any other items of new business? Being none, then let's go forward to our closed session. Could I have a motion, please, to go into a closed session for the purposes of receiving legal advice?
But I also have a question.
Okay. Can I have a seconder first?
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Hempel.
So item number 9, or page 62 of our agenda. Now I see we have a placeholder for a closed session if required. I'm wondering how we're coming into close. Did a member of council request that we go into close, because we have our recommendations in front of us?
Yep. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion then to go into a closed session. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That is carried. So what we'll do is we'll go. Yeah, so we will be leaving the council chambers to go into a closed session. So if you wish to stay, you're welcome to do so. I have no idea as to how long the discussion will go on. Back to order. We have 2 items remaining on our agenda. The first item is item number 9, and that is Planning and Building Services Report 2019, and that is the interim control bylaw for Old Main Street. We do have recommendations before us. Could I have a motion with respect to the recommendations? I'll move them. Councillor Hempin, seconded by Regional Councillor. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Hempin?
No, it's clearly laid out in the report.
Okay, thank you. Regional Councillor is the seconder.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just state that I think that staff's done a very good job, as Councillor Hempin just said, of explaining the rationale for the interim control bylaw here in this report. And I think that given the various issues that have been outlined here, from the unusual lot fabrication, the potential for future development, the stormwater management issues, the forest issues, et cetera, that this is an opportunity to, as a town, do what we should do, which is to plan an area that's in flux or potentially seeing great change, to plan it as well, and plan it can be done, and to plan it in a comprehensive manner. And so I think that gives us this the pause that's famously related to interim control bylaws. And I appreciate staff bringing this forward, and I think I look forward to seeing the result of it, and I think we'll all look back and say that this was a prudent measure to take. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Next item then is the actual interim control bylaw, number 2017-25. I'm wondering if I might, here we are, we might have an overview from our solicitor. Go ahead.
So I apologize for the late circulation of the changes. The changes are not intended to make any substantive change to what was already included in the package, but rather they're more administrative to make the bylaw clear on its face and understandable for those in the public and also those on staff. So I thought it would be helpful just to walk through the bylaw paragraph by paragraph and just explain what it means. So what we distributed tonight is the updated clean version and also the updated comparison copy, which shows the changes made. Just for simplicity, I'm going to walk through the clean version, but if you have any specific questions on any change, I'm happy to address those. So just starting with the first paragraph, this is just setting out the background in the legislation. So Section 38 of the Planning Act gives us permission to pass an interim control bylaw to direct a review or study in a specific area, as described in the report. Paragraph 2, we're just describing in detail the specific report and study that was described in the report. Paragraph 3 is just again citing that the council has asked for this bylaw to be passed in the lands, and therefore we're enacting an interim control bylaw. So paragraph 1 says it's subject to the lands shown on the schedule, and section 2 is where a lot of the changes were made. So what this section basically says is, notwithstanding the provisions of the zoning bylaw, so the zoning bylaw talks about a whole bunch of different things. So it says for this area, put the zoning bylaw aside, and let's instead just look at only these things are permitted on these lands. So the first one says anything which is lawfully in use on the day of the passing of the bylaw. And that's, again, just fairness. You've got it right now legally. This bylaw doesn't change that. The second one is if you already have a building permit to do something on your land on the day we pass this bylaw, again, your right to do that is untouched by this bylaw. And the next 3 are addressing small amendments people might want to make to their properties during the 1-year interim control bylaw, which is not intended to be captured by this. Our study is to look at major development and major change to the area. We're not trying to capture things like accessory dwelling units, which would be captured under C. D talks about things like decks or sheds, minor amendments, and E talks about things like if you wanted to put a minor addition on your house. So this is saying that all those things you can still apply to the town during the year, and we'll consider that in the ordinary course. You're not blocked by this bylaw. Clause 3, to the same rationale, just says basically if you have anything on your property that is damaged, like for example burns down, you can reconstruct it. You can also make things more safe during the period, and again, you're not blocked by this bylaw. Clause 4 just talks about, it's called a severance clause, so it just says if there's anything in the bylaw that's considered unenforceable, the rest of the bylaw remains enforceable. So if there's anything questionable, we don't lose the whole intent. And finally, clause 5 says it takes effect immediately, and it will stay in place for 1 year unless it's extended for an additional year, a second year, in accordance with the Planning Act.
Any questions? Have a mover and a seconder on this already?
No.
No. Okay, Councillor Kerwin, Regional Councillor. Any further discussions? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Broom? Councillor Hampton? Sure. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Adjournment. Councillor Broom? Councillor Quafis? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.